Good morning, fellow chapter members of the Caligandrius chapter. I am Brother Caligandrian. How are we all today? Rose, hello. Wisp, the sock dragon, hello. Brother Sammy, hello. Welcome to the reading. It does me ill to know that you are under the sickness of chaos there, Brother Sammy. I pray to the Emperor that you shall soon feel better. Be not afraid, Sock, for I come bearing only news of glory for the Emperor. There is no ill will here, I promise you that. As with every other Friday morning, we shall begin our reading before switching to video games. If everyone is prepared, then we shall begin. Chapter 5. Informal Formalities. The War Dog's Rebuke. I can't say. The reading begins. It was a little cruel, in Loken's opinion. Someone, somewhere, and Loken suspected the scheming of Malagurst, had omitted to tell the officers of the 140th Expedition Fleet exactly who they were about to welcome on board. The vengeful spirit and its attendant fleet consorts had drawn up majestically into high anchorage, alongside the vessels of the 140th and the other ships that had come to the expedition's aid, and an armored heavy shuttle had transferred from the flagship to the battle barge Misericord. Nathaniel August and his coterie of commanders, including Eidolon's equerry Astartes, had assembled on one of the Misericord's main embarkation decks to greet the shuttle. They knew it was bearing the commanders of the relief task force from the 63rd Expedition, and that inevitably meant officers of the 16th Legion? If I have my Roman numerals correct, with the possible exception of Astartes, they were all nervous. The arrival of the Luna Wolves, the most famed and feared of all Astartes' divisions, was enough to tension any man's nerve strings. When the shuttle's landing ramp extended and 10 Luna Wolves descended through the clearing vapor, there had been silence, and that silence had turned to stifled gasps when it became apparent that these were not the 10 brothers of a captain's ceremonial detail, but 10 captains themselves in full, formal war gear. The first captain led the party and made the sign of the Aquila to Nathaniel August. He began. I know who you are, Lord, August said, and bowed deeply, trembling. There were few in the Imperium who didn't recognize or fear First Captain Abaddon. I welcome you and hush, Master, Abaddon said. We're not there yet. August looked up, not really understanding. Abaddon stepped back into his place, and the 10 cloaked captains, 5 on each side of the landing ramp, formed an honor guard and snapped to attention, visors front and hands on the pommels of their sheathed swords. The War Master emerged from the shuttle. Everyone, apart from the 10 captains and Nathaniel August, immediately prostrated themselves before the deck. The War Master stepped slowly down the ramp. His very presence was enough to inspire total and unreserved attention. But he was, quite calculatedly, doing the one thing that made matters even worse. He wasn't smiling. August stood before him, his eyes wide open, his mouth opening and closing wordlessly, like a beached fish. Astartes, who had himself gone quite green, glanced up and yanked at the hem of August's robes. "Abase yourself, fool!" he hissed. August couldn't. Loken doubted the veteran fleet master could have even recalled his own name in that moment. Horus came to a halt, towering over him. "Sir, will you not bow?" Horus inquired. When August finally replied, his voice was a tiny, embryonic thing. "I can't," he said. I can't remember how." Once again, the War Master showed his limitless genius for leadership. He sank to one knee and bowed to Nathaniel August. "I have come as fast as I was able to help you, sir," he said. He clasped August in an embrace. The War Master was smiling now. "Like a man who's proud enough not to bend his knee to me," he said. "I would have bent it if I had been able, my lord," August said. Already August was calmer, gratefully put at ease by the War Master's informality. "Forgive me, Nathaniel. May I call you Nathaniel? Master is so stiff. Forgive me for not informing you that I was coming in person. I detest pomp and ceremony, and if you'd known I was coming, you'd have gone to unnecessary lengths. Soldiers in dress rigs, ceremonial bands, bunting. I particularly despise bunting." Nathaniel August laughed. Horus rose to his feet and looked around at the prone figures covering the wide deck. "Rise, please. Please, get to your feet. A cheer or a round of applause will do me, not this futile groveling." The fleet officers rose, cheering and applauding. He'd won them over. Just like that, thought Loken. He'd won them over. They were his now forever. Horus moved forwards to greet the officers and commanders individually. Loken noticed Astartes in his purple and gold robes and half-armor, taking his greeting with a bow. There was something sour about the equerry, Loken thought. Something definitely put out. "Helms!" Abaddon ordered, and the company commanders removed their helmets. They moved forward more casually now, to escort their commander through the press of applauding figures. Horus whispered an aside to Abaddon as he took greeting, kisses, and bows from the assembly. Abaddon nodded, touched his link activating the privy channel, and spoke in Chthonic to the other 3 members of the Mournival. "Full council in 3 minutes. Be ready to play your parts." The other 3 knew what that meant. They followed Abaddon into the gathering crowd. They assembled for council in the Strategium of the Misericord, a massive rotunda situated behind the barge's main bridge. The War Master took the seat at the head of the long table, and the Mournival sat down with him, along with August, Astartes, and 9 senior ship commanders and army officers. The other Luna Wolf captains sat among the crowds of lesser fleet command officers, filling the tiered seating in the paneled galleries above them. Master August called up hololithic displays to illuminate his succinct recap of the situation. Horus regarded each one in turn, twice asking August to go back so he could study details again. "So you poured everything you had into this death trap?" Torgadon began bluntly, once August had finished. August recoiled, as if slapped. "Sir, I did as—" The War Master raised his hand. "Tarek, too much, too stern. Master August was simply doing as Captain Throne told him." "My apologies, Lord," Torgadon said. "I withdraw the comment." "I don't believe Tarek should have to," Abaddon cut in. "This was a monumental misuse of manpower. 3 companies, not to mention the army units. It wouldn't have happened under my watch," murmured Targadon. August blinked his eyes very fast. He looked like he was attempting not to tear up. It's unforgivable, said Axeman. Simply unforgivable. We will forgive him even so, Horus said. Should we, Lord? Asked Loken. I've shot men for less, said Abaddon. Please, August said, pale, rising to his feet. I deserve punishment. I implore you to... It's not worth the bolt, muttered Axeman. Enough, Horus smoothed. Nathaniel made a mistake. A command mistake. Didn't you, Nathaniel? I believe I did, sir. He drip-fed his expedition's forces into a danger zone until they were all gone, said Horus. It's tragic. It happens sometimes. We're here now. That's all that matters. Here to rectify the problem. What of the Emperor's children? Did they not even consider waiting? For what exactly? Asked Ashkaris. For us, smiled Axeman. An entire expedition was in jeopardy, replied Ashkaris, his eyes narrowing. We were first on scene, a critical response. We owed it to our Blood Angel brothers to what? To die? Torgadon asked. The 3 companies of Blood Angels were, Ashkaris exclaimed. Probably dead already, Axeman interrupted. They showed you the trap was there. Did you think you'd just walk into it too? Or was Lord Eidolon simply hungry for glory? Asked Torgadon. Ashkaris rose to his feet. He glared across the table at Torgadon. Captain, you offend the honor of the Emperor's children. That may be indeed what I am doing. Yes, Torgadon replied. Then, sir, you are a base and low-born equerry. Ashkaris, Loken said. None of us like Torgadon much, except when he is speaking the truth. Right now, I like him a great deal. That's enough, Garfiel, Horus said quietly. Enough, all of you. Sit down, equerry. My Luna wolves speak harshly because they are dismayed at this situation. An imperial defeat, companies lost, an implacable foe. This saddens me, and it will sadden the Emperor too when he hears of it. Horus rose. My report to him will say this. Captain Throne was right to assault this world, where it is clearly a nest of Xenos filth. We applaud his courage. Master August was right to support the captain, even though it meant he spent the bulk of his military formation. Lord Commander Eidolon was right to engage without support, or to do otherwise would have been cowardly when lives were at stake. I would also like to thank all of those commanders who rerouted here to offer assistance. From this point on, it shall be handled. How will you handle it, Lord? Ashkaris asked boldly. Will you attack? Asked August. We will consider our options and inform you presently. That is all. The officers filed out of the Strategium, along with the Senere, Mar, Moy, Goshen, Targoth, and Cruz, leaving the War Master alone with his Mornival. Once they were alone, Horus looked at the 4 of them. Thank you, friends. Well played. Loken was fast learning both how the War Master liked to employ the Mornival as a political weapon, and what a masterful political animal the War Master was. Axeman had quietly briefed Loken on what would be required of him just before they boarded the shuttle on the Vengeful Spirit. The situation here is a mess, and the commander believes that mess has in part been caused by incompetence and mistakes at command level. He wants all the officers reprimanded, rebuked so hard they smart with shame. But if he's going to pull the 140th expedition back together and make it viable, he needs their admiration, their respect, their unswerving loyalty, none of which he will have if he marches in and starts throwing his weight around. So the Mornival does the rebuking for him. Just so, Axeman had smiled. The Luna Wolves are feared anyway, so let them fear us, let them hate us. We'll be the mouthpiece of discontent and rancor. All accusations must come from us. Play the part, speak as bluntly and critically as you like. Make them squirm with discomfort. They'll get the message. But at the same time, the War Master will be seen as a benign conciliator. We're his war dogs. So that he doesn't have to growl himself. Exactly. He wants us to give them hell, to dress it down, they'll remember and learn from. That allows him to seem the peacemaker, to remain beloved, adored, a voice of reason and calm. By the end, if we do things properly, they'll all feel suitably admonished, and simultaneously they'll all love the War Master for showing mercy and calling us off. Everyone thinks the War Master's keenest talent is as a warrior. No one expects him to be a consummate politician. Watch him and learn, Garvey. Learn why the Emperor chose him as his proxy. Well played indeed, Horus said to the Mortal with a smile. Garviel, that last comment was deliriously barbed. Astartes was quite incandescent. Logan nodded. From the moment I laid eyes on him, he struck me as a man eager to cover his arse. He knew mistakes had been made. Yes, he did, Horus said. Just don't expect to find many friends among the Emperor's children for a while. They are a proud bunch. Logan shrugged. I have all the friends I need, sir, he said. August, Astartes, and a dozen others may, of course, be formally cautioned and charged with incompetence once this is done, Horus said lightly. But only once this is done. Now morale is crucial. Now we have a war to decide. It was about half an hour later when August summoned them to the bridge. A sudden and unexpected hole had appeared in the shield storms of 1-40-20. An abrupt break in the fury, and quiet close to the supposed landing vectors of the Emperor's children. Quite close, apologies. At last, said August, a gap in the storm. Would that I had Astartes to drop in? Astartes muttered to himself. But you don't, do you? Axeman remarked snidely. Astartes glowered at little Horus. Let's go in, Torgon urged the War Master. Another hole might be a long time coming. The storm might close in again, Horus said, pointing to the radiating cyclonics on the lift. You want this world, don't you? Said Torgon. Let me take the spear tip down. The lots had already been drawn. The spear tip was to be Torgon's company, along with the companies of Ceterae, Moy, and Targos. Orbital bombardment, Horus said, repeating what had already been decided as the best course of action. Men might yet live, Torgon said. The War Master stepped aside and spoke quietly and chthonic to the Mortal. If I authorize this, I echo August and Eidolon, and I've just had you take them to task for the very brand of rash mistake. This is different, Torgon replied. They went in blind, wave after wave. I don't advocate duplicating that stupidity, but that break in the weather is the first they've detected in months. If there are brothers still alive down there, little Horus said, they deserve one last chance to be found. I'll go in, said Torgon. See what I can find. Any sign that the weather is changing, I'll pull the spear tip straight back up, and we can open to the fleet batteries. I still wonder about that music, the War Master said. Anything on that? The translators are still working, Abaddon replied. Horus looked at Torgon. I admire your compassion, Tariq, but the answer is a firm no. I'm not going to repeat the errors that have already been made and pour men into... Lord, August had come over to them again, and held out a data slate. Horus took it and read it. Is this confirmed? Yes, War Master. Horus regarded the Mortal. The Master of Vox has detected trace Vox traffic on the surface in the area of the storm break. It does not respond or recognize our signals, but it is active, Imperial. It looks like squad-to-squad or brother-to-brother transmissions. There are men still alive, said Abaddon. He seemed genuinely relieved. Great Terra and the Emperor, there are men still alive down there. Torgon stared at the War Master steadily and said nothing. He had already said it. Very well, said Horus to Torgadon. Go. The drop pods were arranged down the length of the Vengeful Spirit's fifth embarkation deck in their launch racks, and the warriors of the spear tip were locking themselves into place. Lid doors, like armored petals, were closing around them, so the drop pods reassembled toughened, black seed cases ready for autumn. Klaxons sounded, and the firing coils of the launchers were beginning to charge. They made a harsh, rising whine, and a stink of ozone smoldered like incense in the deck air. The War Master stood to the side of the vast deck space, watching the hurried preparations, his arms folded across his chest. Climate update, he snapped. No change in the weather break, my lord, Malagos replied, consulting his slate. How long's it been now? Horus asked. 89 minutes. They've done a good job pulling this together in such short time, Horus said. Ezekiel, command the unit officers, please. Make it known I'm proud of them. Abaddon nodded. He handed the papers of the 4 oaths of moment in his armored hands. Axeman, he suggested. Little Horus stepped forward. Ezekiel, Loken said. Could I? You want to? Luke and Sergar heard and witnessed mine before the Whisperheads, and Tarek is my friend. Abaddon looked sidelong at the War Master, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. Abaddon handed the parchment to Loken. Loken strode out across the deck, Axeman at his side, and heard the 4 captains take their oaths. Little Horus held out the bolter on which the oaths were sworn. When it was done, Loken handed the oath papers to each of them. Be well, he said to them, and commend your unit commanders. The War Master personally admired their work today. Verulan Moy made the sign of the Aquila. My thanks, Captain Loken, he said, and walked away towards his pod, shouting for his unit seconds. Sergar Targost smiled at Loken and clasped his fist thumb around thumb. By his side, Luke Ceterae grinned with his ever half-open mouth, his eyes a murderous blue, eager for war. I'll see you next on this deck, Ceterae began. Let it be at the Emperor's side, Loken finished. Ceterae laughed and ran, whooping, toward his pod. Targost locked on his helm and strode away in the opposite direction. Luke's blood is up, Loken said to Torgadon. How's yours? My humors are all where they should be, Torgadon replied. He hugged Loken with a clatter of plate, and then did the same to Axeman. Upakal! He bellowed, punching the air with his fist, and turned away, running to his waiting drop pod. Upakal! Loken and Axeman shouted after him. The pair turned and walked back to join Abaddon, Malagos, and the War Master. I'm a little jealous, Little Horus muttered to Loken as they crossed the deck. Me too. I always wanted to be me. I know. Going into something like that, I know. I'm always just a little afraid. Of what, Galliel? That we won't see them again. We will. How can you be so sure, Horus? Loken wondered. I can't say, replied Axeman, with a deliberate irony that made Loken laugh. The observing party withdrew behind the blast shields. A sudden, volatile pressure change announced the opening of the deck's void fields. The firing coils accelerated to maximum charge, shrieking with pent-up energy. The word is given, Abaddon instructed above the uproar. One by one, each with a concussive bang, the drop pods fired down through the deck slots like bullets. It was like the ripple of a full broadside firing. The embarkation deck shuddered as the drop pods ejected free. Then they were all gone, and the deck was suddenly quiet, and tiny armored pellets, cocooned in teardrops of blue fire, sank away toward the planet's surface. Permit me a sip of my recap, everyone. I hope you are enjoying the reading. Of course you are not expected to work, Now is the time for learning, my dear friends. We continue. I can't say. The phrase had haunted Logan since the 6th week of the voyage to murder, since he had gone with little Horus to the launch meeting. The meeting place had been one of the aft holds of the flagship, a lonely, forgotten pocket of the ship's superstructure. Down in the dark, the way had been lit by tapers. Logan had come in simple robes, as Axaman had instructed him. They'd met on the 4th midships deck, and taken the rail carriage back to the aft quarters before descending via dark service stairwells. Relax, Axaman had kept telling him. Logan couldn't. He never liked the idea of the lodges, and the discovery that Jubal had been a member had increased his disquiet. This isn't what you think it is, Axaman had said. And what did he think it was? A forbidden enclave, a cult of Lectio Divinitatis, or worse, a terrible assembly, a worm in the bud, a cancer at the heart of the Legion. As he walked down the dim metal deckways, part of him hoped that what awaited him would be infernal, a coven, proof that Jubal had been tainted by some manufacture of the warp before the Whisperheads, proof that would reveal a source of evil to Logan that he could finally strike back at in open retribution. But the greater part of him willed it to be otherwise. Little Horus Axaman was party to this meeting. If he was tainted, then Axaman's presence meant that taint ran profoundly deep. Logan didn't want to have to go head-to-head with Axaman. If what he feared was true, then in the next few minutes he might have to fight and kill his Mournival brother. "Who approaches?" asked a voice from the darkness. Logan saw a figure, evidently an Astartes by his build, shrouded in a hooded cloak. "Two souls," Axaman replied. "What are your names?" the figure asked. "I can't say." "Pass, friends." They entered the aft hold. Logan hesitated. The vast scaffold-framed area was eerily lit by candles and a vigorous fire in a metal canister. Dozens of hooded figures stood around. The dancing light made weird shadows of the deep hold's structural architecture. "A new friend comes." The hooded figures turned. "Let him show the sign," one of them said in a voice that seemed familiar. "Show it," Axaman whispered to Logan. Logan slowly held out the medal Axaman had given him. It glinted in the firelight. Inside his robe, his other hand clasped the grip of a combat knife he had concealed. "Let him be revealed," a voice said. Axaman reached over and drew Logan's hood down. "Welcome, brother warrior," the other said at one. Axaman pulled down his own hood. "I speak for him," he said. "Your voice is noted. Is he come of his own free will?" "He is here because I invited him." "No more secrecy," the voice said. The figures removed their hoods and showed their faces to the glow of the candles. Logan blinked. There was Torgadon, Luke Cedere, Nero Vipus, Callus Echelon, Verulan Moy, and 24 other senior and junior Astartes, and Sergar Targost, the hidden voice, evidently the Lodge Master. "You'll not need the blade," Targost said gently, stepping forwards and holding out his hand for it. "You are free to leave at any time, unmolested. May I take it from you? Weapons are not permitted within the bounds of our meetings." Logan took out the combat knife and passed it to Targost. The Lodge Master placed it on a wall strut out of the way. Logan continued to look from one face to another. This wasn't anything like he had expected. "Tarek? We'll answer any question, Gabriel," Torgadon said. "That's why we brought you here." "We'd like you to join us," said Axaman. "But if you choose not to, we will respect that too. All we ask either way is that you say nothing about what and who you see here to anyone outside." Logan hesitated. "Or?" It's not a threat, said Axeman, nor even a condition. Simply a request that you respect our privacy. We've known for a long time, Targost said, that you have no interest in the Warrior Lodge. I'd perhaps have it put more strongly than that, said Loken. Targost shrugged. We understood the nature of your opposition. You're far from the only Astartes to feel that way. That is why we've never made any attempt to induct you. What changed? Asked Loken. You have, said Axeman. You're not just a company officer now, but more of our lord, and the fact that the lodge has come to your attention. Jubal's medal, said Loken. Jubal's medal, nodded Axeman. Jubal's death was a terrible thing, which we all mourn, but it affected you more than anyone. We see how you strive to make amends, to whip your company into tighter and finer forms as you blame yourself. When the medal turned up, we were concerned that you might start to make waves, that you might start asking open questions about the lodge. So this is self-interest, Loken asked. You thought you'd gang up on me and force me into silence? Gaviel, said Luke Cederay. The last thing the Lure Wolves need is an honest and respected captain. A member of the Morval, no less, campaigning to expose the lodge. It would damage the entire legion. Really? Of course, said Cederay. The agitations of a man like you would force the War Master to act. And he doesn't want to do that, Gorgon said. He knows. You seem shocked, said Axeman. Wouldn't you be more shocked to learn the War Master didn't know about the quiet order within his legion? He knows, he's always known, and he turns a blind eye provided we remain closed and confidential in our activities. I don't understand, Loken said. That's why you're here, said Roy. You speak out against us because you don't understand us. If you wish to oppose what we do, then at least do so from an informed position. I've heard enough, said Loken, turning away. I'll leave now. Don't worry, I'll say nothing. I'll make no waves. But I'm disappointed in you all. Someone can return my blade to me tomorrow. Please, Axeman began. No, Horus. You meet in secret, and secrecy is the enemy of truth. So we are taught. Truth is everything we have. You hide yourselves, conceal your identities. For what? Because you are ashamed? Hell's teeth, you should be. The Emperor himself, beloved by all, has ruled on this. He does not sanction this kind of activity. Because he doesn't understand, Torgadon explained. Loken turned back and strode across the chamber until he was nose to nose with Torgadon. I can hardly believe I heard you say that, he snarled. It's true, said Torgadon, not backing down. The Emperor isn't a god, but he might as well be one. He's so far removed from the rest of mankind, unique, singular. Who does he call brother? No one. Even the blessed Primarchs are only sons to him. The Emperor is wise, beyond all measure. And we love him and would follow him into the crack of doom. But he doesn't understand brotherhood, and that is all we meet for. There was a silence for a moment. Loken turned away from Torgadon, unwilling to look upon his face. The others stood in a ring around them. We are warriors, said Targost. This is all we know and all we do. Duty and war. War and duty. Thus it has been since we were created. The only bond we have that is not prescribed by duty is that of brotherhood. That is the purpose of the Lodge, said Cederay. To be a place where we are free to meet and converse and confide outside the strictures of rank and martial order. There is only one qualification a man need to be a part of our quiet order. He must be a warrior. In this company, said Targost, a man of any rank can meet and speak openly of his troubles, his doubts, his ideas, his dreams, without fear of scorn or monition from a commanding officer. This is a sanctuary for our spirit as men. Look around, Axeman invited, stepping forwards, gesturing with his hands. Look at these faces, Gaviel. Company captains, sergeants, file warriors. Where else would such a mix of men meet as equals? We leave our ranks at the door when we come in here. A senior commander can talk with a junior initiate, man to man. Here, knowledge and experience is passed on. Ideas are circulated, commonalities discovered. Sergar holds the office of the Lodge Master only as a function of order, maybe maintained. Carlos nodded. Horus is right. Gaviel, do you know how old the Quiet Order is? Decades? No, older. Perhaps thousands of years older. There have been lodges in the Legion since their inception, and allied orders in the army and all other branches of the martial divisions. The lodge can be traced back into antiquity, before even the unification of wars. It is not a cult, nor a religious obscenity, just a fraternity of warriors. Some legions do not practice the habit, some do. Ours always has done. It lends us strength. How? Asked Logan. By connecting warriors otherwise divorced by rank or station. It makes bonds between men who would otherwise not even know one another's name. We thrive, like all legions, from our firm hierarchy of formal authority. The loyalty that flows down from a commander through to his lowest soldier. Loyal to a squad, to a section, to a company. The Lodge reinforces complementary links across the structure, from squad to squad, company to company. It could be said to be our secret weapon. It is the true strength behind the Lunar Wolves, strapping us together, side to side, where we are already bound up top to toe. You have a dozen spears to carry into war, said Torgadon quietly. You gather them shaft to shaft as a bundle, so that they are easier to bear. How much easier is that bundle to carry if it is tied together around the shaft? If that was a metaphor, it was lousy. Let me speak, another man said. It was Callus Ekadon. He stepped forward to face Loken. There has been bad blood between us, Loken, he said bluntly. There has. A little matter of rivalry on the field. I admit it. After the High City fight, I hated your guts. So in the field, though we served the same master and followed the same standard, there'd always be friction between us. Competition. Am I right? I suppose. I have never spoken to you, Ekadon said. Never informally. We don't meet or mix. But I tell you this much. I've heard you tonight. In this place. Among friends. I've heard you stand up for your beliefs and your point of view. I've learned respect for you. You speak your mind. You have principles. Tomorrow, Logan, no matter what you decide tonight, I will see you in a new light. You'll not get any grief from me anymore because I know you now. I've seen you as the man you are. He laughed raw and loud. Terra, it's a crude example, Logan, for I'm a crude fellow, but it shows what the Lodge can do. He held out his hand. After a moment, Logan took it. There's a thing at least, said Ekadon. Now get on if you're going. We've talking and drinking to do. Or will you stay? Asked Torgadon. For now. Perhaps, said Logan. The meeting lasted for 2 hours. Torgadon had brought wine and Ceterae produced some meat and bread from the flagship's commissary. There were no crude rituals or demonic practices to observe. The men, the brothers, sat around and talked in small groups, and listened as Axeman recounted the details of the Xenos war he had participated in, which he had hoped might give them insight into the fight ahead. Afterward, Torgadon told some jokes, most of them bad. As Torgadon rambled on with a particularly involved and vulgar tale, Axeman came over to Logan. Where do you suppose, he began quietly, the notion of the Morval came from? From this, Logan asked. Axeman nodded. The Morval has no legitimate standing or power. It is simply an informal organ. But the War Master would not be without it. It was created originally as a visible extension of the Invisible Lodge, though that link is long since gone. They're both informal bodies interlaced into the very formal structure of our lives. For the benefit of all, I believe. I imagined so many horrors about this lodge, said Loken. I know. All part of that straight up and down thing you do so well, Garvey. It's why we love you. And the lodge would like to embrace you. Will there be formal vows? All the theatrical rigmarole of the Mournival? Axeman laughed. No! If you're in, you're in. There are only very simple rules. We don't talk about what passes between us here to anyone not at the lodge. This is downtime. Free time. The men, especially the junior ranks, need to be confident they can speak freely without any comeback. You should hear what some of them have to say. I think I might like to. That is good. You'll be given a medal to carry just as a token. And if anyone asks you about any lodge conference, the answer is, I can't say. There's nothing else, really. I've misjudged this thing, Loken said. I made it quite a demon in my head, imagining the worst. I understand, particularly given the matter of poor Jubal, and given your own staunch character. Am I to replace Jubal? It's not a matter of a replacement, little Horus said. And anyway, no, Jubal was a member, though he hadn't attended any meetings for years. That's why we forgot to palm away his medal before your inspection. There's your danger sign, Garvey. Not that Jubal was a member, but that he was a member and had seldom attended. We didn't know what was going on in his head. If he'd come to us and shared, we might have preempted the horror you endured in the Whisperheads. But you told me I was to replace someone, Loken said. Yes, Udon. We miss him. Udon was a lodge member. Long-time brother. And by the way, go easy on Vipus. Loken went over to where Nero Vipus was sitting, beside the canister fire. The lively yellow flames jumped into the dark air and sent stray sparks oscillating away into the black. Vipus looked uncomfortable, toying with the heel seam of his new hand. Nero? Gavio? I was bracing myself for this. Why? Because you didn't want anyone in your command to, as I understand it, Loken said, and forgive me if I am wrong, because I am new to this, but as I understand it, the lodge is a place for free speech and openness, not discomfort. Nero smiled and nodded. I was a member of the lodge long before I came into your command. I respected your wishes, but I couldn't leave the Brotherhood. I kept it hidden. Sometimes I thought about asking you to join, but I knew you'd hate me for it. You're the best friend I have, Loken said. I couldn't hate you for anything. The medal, though. Jubal's medal. When you found it, you wouldn't let the matter go. And all you said was, I can't say. Spoken like a true lodge member. Nero sniggered. By the way, Loken said, it was you, wasn't it? What? Who took Jubal's medal? I told Captain Axeman about your interest, just so he knew, but no, Garvey, I didn't take the medal. When the meeting closed, Loken walked away along one of the vast service tunnels that ran the length of the ship's bilges. Water dripping from the rusted roof and oil rainbows shone on the dirty legs across the deck. Torgon ran to catch up with him. Well? I was surprised to see you there. I was surprised to see you there, Torgon replied. A star-jazz like you? Loken laughed. Torgon ran ahead and leapt up to slap his palm against the pipe high overhead. He landed with a splash. Loken chuckled, shook his head, and did the same, slapping higher than Torgon had managed. The pipe clang echoed away from them down the tunnel. Out of the engineering, Torgon said. The ducts are twice as high. But I can touch them. You lie. I'll prove it. We'll see. They walked on for a while. Torgon whistled the Legion March loudly and tunelessly. Nothing to say? He asked at length. About what? Well, about that. I was misinformed. I understand better now. And? Loken stopped and looked at Torgon. I have only one worry, he said. The Lodge meets in secret, so logically, it is good at keeping itself secret. I have a problem with secrets. Which is, If you get good at keeping them, who knows what kind you'll end up keeping. Orgon maintained a straighter face for as long as possible, and then exploded into laughter. No good, he spluttered. I can't help it, you're so straight up and down. Logan smiled, but his voice was serious. So you keep telling me, but I mean it, Target. The launch hides itself so well. It's become used to hiding things. Imagine what it could hide if it wanted to. The fact that you're a Astartes? Gorgon asked. I think that's common knowledge. It is. So it is. Gorgon chuckled. He paused. So, will you attempt again? I cannot say, Logan replied. And so ends Chapter 5 of Part 2 of The Rise of Horus, or Horus Rising rather, I suppose. We are well past over halfway through this book. I believe we only have a few more weeks left until we are finished with our readings. I'm excited to see where the story goes. It is nice to see Loken admiring the lodge and hanging out with his bros and whatnot. It's nice to see him chill out a little bit. He is, as they say, a bit of a staunch ass. So it is nice that he is relaxing. It is interesting that they would have that position in the middle of the story where they're going down to the planet to fight a bunch of big spiders, but this book is not exactly a straight and narrow story. There are often times where it redoubles upon itself. If I may ask, sir, why are you wearing armor? This is the armor of the Astartes, my friend. It is my Mark III battle armor, and it keeps me safe and protected against my foes. It also bears the insignia of my chapter, and the colors to show who I belong. A good question. If you're ever curious, please, join us for more readings, as you will learn much more about the Warhammer 40k universe than I ever did know before. Now, please excuse me, as I shall go and change from this heavy attire, and we shall return to play Massive Effect 2. I shall return shortly.